Hansen. I am here with Lucky, and we're going to give you a video demonstration of the training that she's had. So we're going to go through, the training program basically covers 4 areas. There's manners, obedience commands, house training, and leash training. Some of the manners that we're going to go through aren't necessarily placed on command, they're just behaviors that she's been taught that you can see. Like, for example, when she approaches me and makes eye contact with me, I want her default behavior to be to sit in front of me. I want her to sit automatically for a greeting, and she does it very well. Every once in a while she needs a reminder. I don't know if you saw, I kind of swooshed up with my hands to remind her I want her to sit. But go ahead and ask her for a sit every time she approaches you before you give her love and attention and everything else. And that does a couple of things. One, it helps to really ground them and plant them so they're just in one place. And also, it brings, when their hind end goes down, their eyes come up to you, and it draws their attention and focus on you. Another thing you'll notice too is that she's staying on all fours around me. She's been taught not to jump. And if she ever does get excited and try to jump up, ask her for a sit. That's her replacement behavior. And don't give her any attention until she's sitting and looking at you. Sit. Good girl. She's been taught to be very gentle with her mouth. And we struggled with this initially a little bit. And when she's in competition with other dogs, she does get kind of excited and grabby with her mouth. So for the command for that is gently, and just keep a hold of, just be aware and keep a hold of whatever's in your hand. And when you're giving it to her, expect her to be very soft and to use her lips and her tongue to take food out of your hands rather than her teeth. And if she just opens her mouth and gets really grabby, pull your hand away and say gently, and then she'll get really soft with her mouth. So also along with her manners, let's go. She's expected to have manners at the doorways, any kind of a doorway, any kind of a gate or the crate. She's asked to hold a stay before she's allowed through. Stay. Okay. Good girl. Girl, you want to come back inside? No. Stay. Okay. Good girl. And she doesn't necessarily need to be treated for that every time, because getting through, hi, good girl, you even know. Because getting through is rewarding in and of itself. But do continue with that habit. This is really important, especially for large breed dogs. It can be a really bad habit to learn to just brush through doorways. You know, they can knock over children, and they get really excited about going in and out of doors. So always ask for that stay. There's 5 things that most people do naturally every day with their dog. And the acronym that I use to help people remember is All Good Dogs Fetch Toys. And that stands for A, attention, G and D, gates and doorways, F is food, and T is toys. So attention, gates and doorways, food and toys are 5 things that most people give their dogs naturally several times a day. Good girl. So make good use of those. Ask for obedience when you're giving those things. Don't ever just let her get through a doorway. Don't ever let her have her toy or have whatever it is that she really wants. Because whenever she's focused on something, she's motivated by something, that's an opportunity for obedience. And go ahead and make good use of it. Some people kind of tend to think that may be a little militaristic to have such stringent control over your dog, but really, good girl. But really, dogs thrive on that. They really like leadership. They like knowing who's in charge. It gives them a lot of security. They're a lot like children in that way. So go ahead and ask for that, and that'll contribute to their bond to you, and give them a lot of security in knowing who's in charge and knowing that it's you. Another part of her manners are her mealtime manners. Come on. So when she, sit. When she's ready to eat, go ahead and do the same thing. Ask for a stay. Stay. Okay. she's allowed to eat. And again, that's kind of the premise of the whole training program, is we're replacing physical control with verbal control. So trust that she's going to respond to that verbal control and go ahead and give the commands and expect her to follow through. Another good habit to stay in, and we do this while they're here in the training program, good girl, is to have your hands in their food dish on a regular basis, especially while they're puppies. And this helps to prevent protective aggression. A lot of people never have a reason to stick their hand in a dog's food bowl, and so they're really, really surprised that when somebody does, they get growled or nipped at. So make a conscious effort, sit, stay, okay, to put your hand in your dog's food bowl often while she's eating. And go ahead and drop yummy things in there, drop treats in there while she's eating, so she learns to anticipate seeing your hand in her food bowl rather than feel like she needs to protect against it or guard against it. Another thing that does for you is it lets you get 2 or 3 repetitions of a command out of one feeding rather than just one. And you'll see that if she's that she makes rapid progress, she'll hold her stays a lot longer. If you just give a quick, rapid repetition of the same command in one feeding rather than just getting one command out of one feeding. So I think that pretty much wraps it up for manners. Now we'll go through the obedience commands. I'm going to show you come, sit, stay, down, stay, crate, drop it, watch me, and go to bed. Come. Good girl, sit. So the hand signal for sit is just a little scoop up over the nose, just like that. And to help you remember, that's how we taught her to sit. We lured her nose up like that, and when her hind end hit the ground, then we rewarded her. Good girl. Stay. Okay, good girl. So again, the hand signal for stay is just to make a stop sign with your hand, just like that. And then to release, you say okay. And you'll probably notice that I used a large fluctuation in my tone of voice. That when I asked for a stay, I used kind of a firm tone of voice, and then when I released her and I wanted action, then I used kind of an upbeat, chipper tone of voice. And that goes a long way with dogs. Dogs naturally tune in to tone of voice a lot more than they do the actual words that you use. So, with down, I always start them in a sit, so go ahead and put her in a sit, and then make your hand flat like this, and take it all the way to the ground. Say down. Good. Stay. She has really nice long stays, sit stays and down stays. Don't accept that long term. Continue to build on that. Continue to add what I call the 3 Ds. Distance, duration, and distractions. Always ask for a little more every time she does it. It's very easy to get a good 1 or 2 hour down stay on her bed within their first year if you just keep asking for more every time. Good girl, good girl. But obviously as puppies, no, good girl. As puppies they have a very short attention span, and so that's a really good stay for a puppy. Good girl, great. She'll go into her crate on command. If she hesitates, you can toss something in for her to follow, but but I don't reward her until she's gone all the way in and turned around, and then I let her take a treat from my hand. And then again, just always ask for a stay before you let her out, because she's motivated. Anytime she's motivated, get obedience from her. She's very motivated to get out. Stay. Okay. Good girl. Yeah, that's a good girl, huh? Good girl. Good girl. Come here. Come on, come on. Okay, drop it. Drop it. Drop it. Okay, good girl. With drop it, stop all movement, because if you're tugging with her, she wants to keep tugging. So hold very still, and you can even hold a treat there for her, but ask her to release it on her own will. Don't ever pull something out of her mouth or allow a child to pull something out of her mouth. You want her to actually open up her mouth and release it to you. Good girl. That's a good puppy. Watch me. Okay, good girl. So with watch me, this is a really important command. This kind of is used to replace her name. Just because it's not always handy to have a high value reward handy when you use her name. And we use their name so often that we don't want it to be a crisis if she ever ignores it. But we do want to have a command that gets her attention every single time without fail. So I would highly recommend that you continue to practice this command several times a day. And always use a high value reward. Watch me. For follow through, and all you're looking for is for her eye contact. You want her eyes to come and look at you. And the reason for that is dogs are designed so that they're not multitaskers. They can't be looking at one thing and thinking about something else like we can. So wherever their eyes are is what they're thinking about. So you can essentially distract them from a distraction. And it can be a life-saving command, you know, like if she's heading out to traffic, if she's following, what? You're just dying for your toy, huh? If she's like chasing a cat, or if you drop something on the floor you don't want her to have, you know, when she's in the middle of an intense distraction, watch me. Okay, good girl. You want her to completely drop what she's doing and have all eyes on you. Good girl, good girl. And always make it very rewarding to her. That's a foundational command. Good girl. Drop it. Drop it. Okay, drop it. Drop it. There, drop it. Good girl. That's a good puppy. She loves the toy, huh? Go to bed. Go to bed. Okay. Good girl. With go to bed, I don't care what position she's in, sitting, standing, or lying down on her bed. I want her to be completely on her bed, all 4 feet. Good girl. And I want her to stay there until she's released. And this is a good opportunity for you to practice extended down stays, because they're very comfortable. Go to bed. Good girl. They're very comfortable on their bed. They enjoy being on their bed. So it's a natural place for them to hold an extended down stay. And if you have a natural time during the day, a natural downtime during the day, like you as a family kind of watch a show or read or something, go ahead and use that time. Put the bed next to you and have her do down stays on the bed. And go ahead and attach the leash and have a hold of the leash in case she tries to get up and walk away. Then you have a tool to give feedback to her. And let her, and just give her a little tug back to the bed. Okay, good girl. On that note, I do recommend that you have a 4 or 5 foot little light leash like this. And for the first couple of weeks or so, allow her to just drag this around the house. And the reason for that is that will give you a tool to give her feedback on what is and is not acceptable. Watch me. Okay, good girl. What? Some colors for that. On on what is and is not acceptable in your home. For example, if there's areas of your home that you don't want her in, then when she goes to those places, just grab her leash and give 2 taps, and she knows that 2 taps means it's a correction. You don't have to be hard about it, but you have to be intentional about it. And it feels different than her just stepping on her leash. When she steps on her leash, it's just a one little tug. Anyway, but then if she, if she gets excited to meet somebody new, she tries jumping up, anything like that, it's really hard to control unless you've got the leash. For the first little while you're asking her to come to you, I never trust a dog to come until I know they're absolutely 100% and they trust me. So I always have a leash on when I'm asking them to come, until I can really trust them to do it 100% of the time. So always have something that you can control them with, and always have a reward handy. On the note of rewards, and you'll notice that I do use a lot of treats and rewards, and I don't always use treats. You'll probably notice that on the last command, I rewarded her with her toy, which is very motivating to her right now. It's actually more motivating than the food, I think, for her right now. When I first started training, for the first couple of years, I really struggled with that, and I felt like they were getting treat spoiled. Because when I had food on me, they were really attentive, and when I did not, they would kind of ignore me. And so what I did about that, what I found is taking dogs through advanced obedience, is that the more consistent you are about the first 8 to 12 months of their life, the more easily you can transition out of that. And the reason is if you make obedience, if you reward them for obedience every single time or as much as possible, they get to where they don't even think about it anymore. It drives that behavior into an automatic behavior, kind of like a muscle memory, to the point where if you give a command, their body is going to respond before their mind even has a chance to think about it. My personal dog, he's about 5 now, and he gets a food reward maybe once a week. But he still does everything I ask the first time I ask him, just because he knows that's just what we do. It's driven into his automatic behaviors. And what I've noticed is that if you're inconsistent during that first year, and sometimes you have a reward and sometimes you don't, sometimes it's really exciting to come to you, sometimes it's really not because they get locked up or punished or whatever, then they learn to think about it every time, and they have to ask themselves, is it worth it this time? And so they do kind of develop that on and off switch, which you don't want. So it's kind of inconvenient the first year to keep those treats handy and rewards and toys and things. But make it a point to keep it around your house. Pouch the house. Put little baggies of treats by the door. Put them by the fridge. Put them by the bedroom. Put them by the crate. Put them in the garage, in your car. Everywhere that you are going to interact with your dog, have those treats handy or reward. It could be a toy. And it's going to pay off big time, long term. That initial investment in that first year will pay you big rewards over their lifetime, which is a good 15 years. So, come. Good girl. Sit. Good girl. How much time do we have left?
You're at 18, almost 19.
Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead with leash training. The leash training and the house training by far take up the bulk of the time that's been put into these puppies. But they're probably the least demonstratable. I mean, I can show you the leash training, but it's much easier to demonstrate the obedience commands and everything else. So there's 3 kinds of walks that we do. Sit, good girl. There's loose leash walking on a short leash like this. That's when you want to get from point A to point B. And then if I'm taking them out for a walk for their pleasure, like we're going to go where she can sniff and run around and do what she wants to do, either I'll be off leash or I'll take her on a 15 or 20 foot leash. And then I don't stress where they're at or anything like that. It's kind of a pleasure walk for them. But I do teach them to run into me and check in and touch my fingers about every 30 seconds if I'm on an off leash walk. But if she's on a short leash like this and you need to get from point A to point B, she needs to be paying attention to you. And she needs to maintain slack in the leash. She needs to maintain this J. And the commands that I use are let's go, let's go. And again, I use a chipper tone because I want action out of her. let's go. And I want her to basically, let's go. Stay with me and maintain slack in the leash. Come on. Good girl. And turn when I turn and sit automatically when I stop. And I don't stress which side I want her on, left or right. Good girl. With this loose leash walking, I just want her to basically pay attention to me and maintain slack in the leash. And if she does pull ahead, I just stop and I say easy. And I ask her to put slack back into the leash. Easy, easy, good girl. And I don't move forward at all until she maintains that slack in the leash. It's really important that you stop and stay standing until she puts slack back in the leash. And then we've also taught her a short heel. And heel is pretty intensive for a puppy to learn. Good girl, sit. Just start on your left side where she's on your left side, sitting, facing the same direction you're facing. And you want her to just be glued to you and just keep pace with you. And healing is to get you past very intense distractions, maybe another dog or something like that. And you always place your body between her and the distraction. So if the dog was over here, I'd be in between her and the dog. And I'd have my treats or reward handy. Come on, sit. And just lure her with the treats past it. Heel. Come on, heel. Good girl. Good, sit. Heel. Sit. Heel. Sit. Good girl. Yes. Sit. Heel. Sit. Okay, good girl. Heel. Sit. Good girl. Okay. Good. Yeah, and the whole goal is just to have her really focused on you while you're healing. And like I said, right now it's a very short heal, just a few steps at a time, and you build that up over time and with a lot of practice. That's kind of an advanced command. It comes with time. Anyway, so that's how she's been doing on her leash training. She's done very well. And the last portion is the house training, and I've kind of discussed that with you, and I sent you some information in the email. But yeah, she's basically expected to come and touch a bell hung on a door just like this with her nose. And when she does, okay, good girl. Reward her and emphasize the word outside. You want to go outside? Let's go outside. And then take her on leash to a specific area to go potty. I'm going to go ahead and follow through with that. I'm going to take her out to her potty spot. Okay, good girl. But anyway, if you have any questions, give me a call. She's done awesome. I think you're going to love her.